Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and this is part 2 on how to draw the ceratosaurus. So yeah, we're going to get a little bit more into the detail of this drawing. So I'm actually using a reference photo from Jurassic World the game, Jurassic World Evolution. So it's only to kind of see what kind of skin pattern they use. And he has a lot of wrinkles over here. I'm gonna draw one more spike in over there, and he has a lot of wrinkles over here, especially just in this particular section of his neck. And then this part goes a little bit like this. He has a lot of muscle over here actually, so this is actually going to be a very dark section. Just drawing it in very lightly. And let's get a little bit more detail into this part, and a few more kind of, these lines are supposed to be a little bit more like this. Because there's a huge muscle over here. And then just go over it with those kind of scales and stuff. Alright. Let's make this part a little darker as well and make some veins. I'm making this really dark. It has to be about as dark as the section of his eye. So about something like this. And then just put in a couple of lines over here and make it a little bit darker over here as well. Kind of creates a little bit of detail. And let's get a little bit more shadow into the part behind his head, just a little bit. I actually did a little bit too much over here, but that's okay. And get this kind of shadow part a little bit more pronounced. Put in a few lines over there. And make this line a little darker underneath. Alright, and then there's a little bit of shadow over here. Just a tiny bit. And that should be about it. And then this line kind of attaches to the rest of his back. So you can just put in some scales over here. But don't go too dark with those scales, because otherwise the whole kind of illusion of depth goes away. And put in a few of those kind of lines, wrinkles, whatever you might call it. And I'm making this part a little darker. Put a little bit more kind of lines through it, so it looks like there's a little bit more detail over there. And we have to make this part a little darker as well. Just a tiny little bit, and this should be about fine. Alright, now we can get some more detail into this part of his head, and maybe we can make something like an air hole over there. So I want this part to be very light because that's where his jaw muscle kind of attaches. And then there's also one huge jaw muscle over here. And kind of do the same kind of thing, get a little bit of shadow between the teeth going into his jaw. And maybe even do something like this because it looks kind of like there are scales. This looks really, really cool actually. Let's just do something like this. And we can go over it later to make it a little bit darker if we really want to. Alright. So now we can move over to his ribs, put in a couple of ribs. And just do the same thing as what we always do. Kind of get a little bit of detail between it and leave a whole part white. And let's get some scales into this part as well. And we want his leg to have kind of a shape like this. I'm just going randomly around everywhere. Alright. Something like this. And then just put in a few lines for the shadow. Parts that you want to be a little bit darker and stuff. A couple of tiny little scales. Alright, something like this. And then make these lines kind of continue on, going kind of this way. And over here it's supposed to be a little bit darker. Alright. Well, let's just get a couple of lines in here. And make it really, really dark on the bottom part. So what I'm doing right now first is putting all the shadow into place and stuff, and trying to get something like the hardest part done. And then when I'm going to put in those little scales and stuff, because I'm gonna show you how I do those little scales right here very quickly. For example, what you want to do is when you put in those lines and you have some white areas, you can just put in some half circles, and this will create a pretty detailed look on your drawing. And if you don't think that it's dark enough, that particular area, you just make it darker by putting them closer to each other and putting them in a little darker and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do everywhere, but first I want to have the basic shadow and stuff already drawn in, because that's the hardest part, and that's really the things that I need to show you guys. So there's going to be a lot of shadow over there. And also over here. And maybe, like I always do as well, is put in those wrinkles over here and then make them kind of smaller and smaller as you go along, and make those wrinkles go all the way up until over here, until it touches his hip. His hip will be over here. Alright, and now we also should put a little bit of shadow over here, this particular area. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just putting in a little bit of shadow and put in those ribs a little bit darker as well. And then just put those scales around them. But make sure you leave a very tiny section of the ribs, very light still, so it looks like they are kind of there's a little bit depth on it and the sun catches on it. You can see the reflection of the sun a little bit, a highlight. Alright. A little bit of shadow over here. A little bit more than on the surrounding area. Yeah, my dog is making a lot of noise again. I'm sorry for that. And alright. So about now it's going to be about time to put in a little bit detail into his legs and his little arm over here. And of course I still have to erase those pencil lines that I used to draw the teeth. It's starting to look quite good, I believe. And over here you can just put in those kind of tiny scales and stuff. Alright, so now it's time to get a little bit more shadow and texturing into his leg. And also over here. This should actually connect to the wrinkles and stuff. Over there. And then over here you should also start putting in a little bit of shadow. And put in a couple of these lines as well. And try to make it about the same tone as his belly is. I mean his rib cage, because his belly is over here. Okay. Darken in his knee a little bit. Put a couple of lines between there over here. And now you should put in these lines. A little bit of shadow over here as well. Just a tiny bit, not too much. That's about all that it needs over there. And try to get these lines in as well. One very big muscle over here. Goes all the way down until over here. And over here there's supposed to be a lot of shadow. And this is going to be very dark. And I forgot to put in this little side kind of claw over there, and now we can put in some scales. Something like this, and make sure you darken this line a little so it's still clearly visible where the toes kind of separate. Okay, and now let's make this a little darker as well. And let's get a little bit of detail into his tail. So I'm gonna make this line a little darker. Well, very dark actually. It's supposed to be about as dark as this line, maybe even darker, so. And this line as well. Oh, I'm sorry, it was off the camera, that part. Darkening his leg on this side a little bit so it's still visible where his legs and the rest of his body separate. And put in those kind of very dark lines again. And be careful not to touch this line too much with those very dark lines. You can touch them, or you can touch it, but just try to keep a little bit of space between those lines and that center line. Alright, now put in some other lines and stuff, and to get a little bit of detail going, put a few scales in, and darken those kind of rimples as well. To create something like this. And a little bit of shadow between it should be fine as well. Don't go too dark. I believe I went a little too dark already. And then just get those kind of lines on his tail. Let's say there were rimples or wrinkles. Continue on all the way on it still, and also put a bit of shadow over here as well. Something like this. And put in those kind of little detailed scales. Make this very dark at the bottom. And put in those scales again. Yeah, I shouldn't have made this part too dark, but it kind of happened anyways. So we will have to live with it. It really looks kind of stupid, but it's okay. Alright, and then just put in the detail on all the other limbs. Do it the same way you did on this side. So over here. So that means there's supposed to be one muscle over here again. And one over here. This muscle kind of goes all the way down. This muscle attaches to this kind of thing, side kind of toe, and this, you'll have to get a little bit more shadow in there. Put some scales over there. As well as over here. Darken this line a little. Alright. And well, we could make this part a little bit darker with also putting in a little bit of wrinkles everywhere. Something like this. So this part doesn't really stand out too much anymore. Just a random idea, but maybe it will kind of work out good. Alright. So the transition is a little bit smoother into, at least it's not like the rest of the drawing is very light and then this part is extremely dark instantly. And put those little nails in, claws, a few scales, and then just put in the kind of texture, skin texture and stuff. Okay. It's actually starting to look pretty okay. So now for this part we have to put in a couple of lines like this. And a couple of lines like this. Alright. Okay, so we are about done with the tutorial. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you actually learned something new, and so yeah, if you liked the video, leave a like, comment below what you think about the video, and don't forget to subscribe. So this was Dinosaur Drawer, and goodbye.